I'm Steph, that quirky bird girl. Oh, hold up, I just heard a western osprey. Oh, it's a laughing kookaburra and a blue jay. Oh, and don't even get me started on the belted kingfisher. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit that follow button. Watch my TV show one day. Hello, 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 and welcome back to That Quirky Bird Girl. I am your host, Steph, and I am so happy to be bringing you all another episode on this amazing value series. I have been having so much fun filming these with you all and sharing my journey about how birds have really helped me self-actualize and step into who I truly feel and know I am through these different values. Now, we've talked about resilience, we've talked about joy, we've talked about self-kindness. Last week we talked about bravery, and this week we will be talking about community. Now it is a bright and sunny day in a beautiful Central Park, NYC, and I am bringing you all the heart of Central Park, the Ramble. It is a spot where I lead every single one of my bird walks, and I have so much fun coming out here, from red-bellied woodpeckers to American robins to black-billed cuckoos. There are so many birds here in this park. It feels limitless. We've got nests this time of year, so there's just a lot to look forward to. And so if you want to see more of the birds that I see while I walk through this park and while I lead my tours, check out my TikTok and my Instagram, where I post daily updates on the different birds and species that I'm seeing, along with some wonderful joy mixed in, because you know I can't miss out on that. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different in that I will be talking about one of the values that I never really realized was a value until recently. I thought it was just something that I really cared about and something that I really enjoyed. So I'll be getting into that in a few minutes here, but just want to give an opportunity to thank you all for following my journey. I have officially hit 12,000 followers across all platforms, and I am so grateful for the community and voice that y'all have given me to create and build around joy and birds. So thank you so much for tuning in. It's going to be a good one. If you haven't watched the last ones, be sure to check them out. Let's get into it. Now, I mentioned I wasn't sure that this was a value, but it was always something that I cared about so deeply, and it is community. Now, if you've never watched my podcast episodes, let me just get you a little used to the ground here. On this side, we'll have all of our lovely chapters where you can see what and where I will dive into, and then you can scroll to different areas if you're watching on video or on YouTube, where those different chapters come up, and then you can watch that specific topic. Now, what I will be talking about right now is a definition. You know, I always launch us off with a value-based definition, and we're getting into it for community. So what is community? Community is the collective well-being, shared ideals, and shared interests that bring people together and almost bridge a value-based connection within this value. Along with it comes mutual support. It's an environment based on trust, collaboration, and solidarity amongst one another. It is a safe, inclusive environment that's its whole beginning is on trust, collaboration, and solidarity within that community. Now, it doesn't have to directly be spoken about. Sometimes community can be something that's born out of a need. For example, I build neurodivergent community here in NYC, but that was a need, and we aren't necessarily directly saying, hey, this is an environment where you can trust, but it is something where I'm saying you can be yourself, your most authentic self. Those other things tend to follow with what you or the environment that you are cultivating or creating. If you are a community leader, if you are someone who enjoys being a part of community, then you are someone who is carrying those values, and maybe you don't even realize it. But next time you go somewhere and you're in a large group of people who you trust, I would just encourage you to think about what it is that you value about that specific community, because you can learn a lot through that community about yourself. Ultimately, these kinds of environments lead to long-term engagement, so the desire to continue participating in those environments. Some of them have been able to be found online. So, for example, Discord communities have been really popular, but they also embody a lot of resilience. Oftentimes those environments, there are times when they get challenged, or, oh, there was a common grackle that just flew by here, a bunch of males, so cool. But oftentimes it challenges your ability to be resilient in an environment. Do you continue to trust? Do you continue to believe that it's a safe environment? And then you bounce back from those situations or those scenarios. Sometimes you can have an argument amongst your friends group and it ultimately ends up bringing you closer together. These kinds of things test and pull at resilience. And if you're curious about what resilience is, check out my most recent episode all about it. It is up now. Next, we're going to get into why you should cultivate community, whether that mean being a community leader or someone who is involved in community events to whatever degree, meaning that you attend them, you volunteer at them, whatever it is that you do. This speaks to you. Now, why should you cultivate community? I mean, there are many reasons, and from someone who is a community builder herself, that was a red-bellied woodpecker just screeching. Oh, wait. No, that's an American robin. An American robin screeching. But there are many reasons why you should be cultivating community within your own life. Digital and the digital realm specifically has completely pulled us away from one another and siphoned us off into thinking that texting or sending a message or talking to a few people on some sort of chat is community-based connection. And sometimes it can be, but more often than not, when those communities aren't at some point or another IRL, it starts to feel like a disconnection. And that is the very same reason why we see shows like Catfish pop up, where people have been having these internet connections or online connections, and ultimately what they want to do is take it to real life. They want to meet these people. Well, that is the natural cadence of what someone might want to do when they have a strong bond. Now, that being said, it doesn't necessarily mean that that bond is going to convert into real life the same way it was online. But ultimately, as humans, what we want is connection in person. And that is what community is. Ultimately, my opinion on digital is that it turns us into these unreliable data warehouses where it feels like sometimes the world is against us and we can live inside these victim mentalities where we're just perpetually and constantly a victim. And that's not something I want to cultivate here. What I want to cultivate here is reminding ourselves that we are far more capable than we think we are. And if we are lacking the communities that we need, we have the power to go out and create those. You can do it. That's part of what this discussion is all about. That's part of what actualizing into what community can truly be for you, for others, and really just what we need and coming out of, hopefully, this digital age. Community is about returning to safe and kind environments that allow us to be ourselves. I spoke to this a little bit earlier in the definition, but I want to harpen on it a little bit even more because it's so important for you to understand and recognize that these are the environments that you could live in. It's all about you recognizing that it's something that you can build for yourself. And I encourage you to do that and to look for ways where you can be more yourself. And that if that means looking around and recognizing that, hey, there's not a space for this, or it doesn't feel like there's a space for me to do this, actualize it. Build it, bring it to life. There are so many spaces and places that will host communities for free. Reach out to a local business that wants to bring people in. Then post an event on an event platform. There are so many these days. There's Eventbrite, there's Luma, there's Facebook you could even do, there's LinkedIn. There are so many places depending on the community that would make sense for you, or the platform that would make most sense for you. But there are options out there, and not utilizing them is recognizing that you are putting yourself at a disadvantage by not giving yourself access to this community that could really truly change your life, because that's what it is. Ultimately, community is life changing, life altering. And to not have access to that and not give yourself permission to build it, that's sad. I wish you the strength to do that. If you want to know more about bravery, watch the most recent episode, because you can learn a lot from yourself within those bird lessons. There was just a northern cardinal that was flying by, but there's so much that we can do. And if you tell yourself, well, I'm not a leader, I'm not someone who feels comfortable in large groups, this is your large group. It's not like you're building something that is like, you know, gonna turn against you one day. And like, you're building something that's based around you. And so the most you can be, the better it's going to be. So just be yourself and build in a way that makes sense to you. Make friendships, meet new people. All of these things come from events. And when you're cultivating the culture, it's so much easier to be clear on what it is that, or why it is that you're building in the way that you are. At the end of the day, we're in a digital age where so much is happening in the world, and we have more access to information than we should ever have access to in a lot of ways. Luckily, we do have access to them because there are a lot of things going on in the world that we need to be apprised of and be aware of. But at the same time, that access to information actively harms us, in that it is constantly keeping our nervous system activated. It is constantly telling us, you need to do this, you need to, and there's always all of these other opinions and routines and stressors and things that could come into our lives that make us feel like we're not doing enough or like we are not enough. But that's not the case. It's that we need to learn to recognize that we are what we watch. And so oftentimes when we're watching so much negativity, and granted, like I said earlier, some of it we do need to be aware of, but to the degree that we are becoming aware of it, it is too much. It's too much. And it's turning us into negative people. And I'm sorry, but oh, there's a female northern cardinal right there. Cool. I want you to make your dreams come to life and to be the best version of yourselves. And unfortunately, when we are constantly consuming negative content, that's not something that's easy for us to do. And that's not to say that it's our fault, but there is something that we can do about it. Building community is a reaction to that. It is a reaction to this dissection of humanity where we are pulled apart from one another digitally, but it's also IRL. We're constantly scanning for, oh, I see you, I know what you look like, I know who you are, this black and white thinking that comes from social media, because as soon as someone says something, it's like social media is two-dimensional. It's either yes or it's either no. And oftentimes when we put people in boxes like that, we are automatically going to misunderstand them. But when we're together, IRL, the possibility of us understanding and really having the opportunity to ask questions and get more into depth about what someone means will really activate our curiosity, but also allow us to understand that not everything is so black and white. People are dynamic, and we simply can't get that dynamicism from social media. Community is the fight back of that, and that is what we were doing. So if you go to events, if you host your own events, you are fighting back, and I'm really proud of you for doing that. Keep going. All right, now I have got a story about how I built community here in New York City. As always, we're going to talk about my community story, so let's get into it. So in Chicago, when I first was getting started with my understanding of community, and I had just graduated college, which in and of itself is its own community, I was trying to figure out, like, okay, how does this like mid-20s community look like? I started hosting bird walks in a local park, and it wasn't exactly what I was looking for at the time, and even really today, that was a blue jay screaming at us. But at the time, what I was really looking for and seeking to cultivate was just joy in the name of birds. And I didn't know how I wanted people to get together. I didn't know what I wanted it to truly look like or develop into. I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. So I got started with posting events on, I think it was like a free walk. It was like Get Your Guide or something. And people would come on free bird walks with me, and I would have an opportunity to interact with them and show them my side of bird joy. And so it was an enriching experience, but at the end of the day, it wasn't necessarily connecting to what I was wanting to connect to, because I didn't have an idea of what the kind of community I wanted to bring would look like. So when I moved to New York City, that all changed because I was suddenly like outside of my comfort zone constantly. And I was asking questions about like, and going to events like crazy. And all the questions I was asking was like, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And I would take bits and pieces of what I liked of each in particular community event that I went to. And I was like, I like this. I don't like this. I like this. I don't like this. And I kind of, from that, built my own version and understanding of what it was that I wanted community to be. And then I was able to really actualize in what I was looking for in community. I started hosting events here in this city. So I host neurodivergent events as well as bird based events. And I partner with the Met to bring those to life. So I'm really fortunate in that I've been able to build those relationships to cultivate. But it all was just born out of pure ambition to build something that I didn't see existing yet. And again, as I said earlier, community is a reaction. It is radical. And oftentimes when we talk about, pushing back against the systems that are actively harming us in communities, what that work will actually look like are things like this. It is community. It is bringing people together. And maybe we aren't talking about those things directly. Maybe we aren't talking about politics. That's okay with me. Maybe we aren't talking about what's happening in the world, but we are talking about joy, and we're talking about birds, and we're talking about things that allow us to be our true and authentic selves. And that's the human journey. And we'd be amiss if we let the digital realm just distract us from it. So I've always been super intentional about how I spend my time. And admittedly, this is really difficult because so much happens online and it's so easy to get caught up and to get dragged and pulled into. But we have to be conscious of how much we are consuming. Again, like I said, we are what we consume. And so at the end of the day, if I didn't want to bring that negative energy to events or to my own community, I had to be very conscious of the fact that, okay, I have to turn this off. I have to make sure that I'm only inputting this kind of content or this kind of lens. And it really helped me just kind of lean more into myself or into who I am. We talk a lot about in the community builder space about having a third place and what that looks like and what we want to cultivate within those spaces. And I think a lot of times what we forget is that a third space can be a park. It can be somewhere that allows us to be ourselves. It can be a friend's basement. It can be a local ice cream place. Like, there are so many third spaces out there that already exist as current businesses that we can uplift to also uplift our own mission and our own doings. Like, for example, I've partnered with so many different restaurants here in the city to bring events to life, and a lot of them have been free. And so I encourage you, if you're like, there's this barrier, there's this barrier, there's this barrier, I promise you there's not as many barriers as you think there are. There just aren't. It's about time you start seeing that so that you stop telling yourself that you can't do what you want to do simply because it's too hard or there are too many risks or there are too many variables. There's risks with everything. And if you're worried about risks, watch my bravery episode because it'll walk you through how to drop those risks. You are hurting yourself by holding on to those. And so releasing them and letting yourself feel the freedom of just building and growing and learning is going to really help you build into community as well. One thing I really struggled with when I was first building community was I spent so much time thinking about like, am I qualified? Am I doing this right? Am I building right? Specifically for me, I'm not an ornithologist. I'm someone who simply loves birds. I love experiencing them, and I built the concept of bird joy. And it has been something that I've just completely fallen in love with. Identifying with the fact that I'm not an ornithologist, but I'm also actively sharing information about birds was really hard for me because I was like, oh, am I allowed to do this? Am I permitted? Like, are ornithologists going to get mad at me? And they could still get mad at me, but at some point you have to just let go and not really care. And if you hold on to that, it's genuinely going to hold you back from actually being and sharing the message that you truly want to share, whatever it is. If that's, you want to educate about, I don't know, plants, you want to educate about politics, whatever it is, if you are coming at it from a perspective of this like negativity and this like dumping of information, it's going to be really hard for people to connect to your work. And that's why, especially my generation, I'm a part of Gen Z. And so seeing us grow up with news where everything was just so negativity driven, it's hard for us not to take that on and carry that within ourselves and think that that's how we get folks' attention because that's how our attention was got. But we have to keep in mind that people are so inundated with negativity all the time. Just because that's what works for news doesn't mean that that's what works for everyone else. And so reminding ourselves of that is really, really vital, especially if you are looking to build any sort of community or attend community-based events. All this to be said, in my own personal experience, bringing people together is a sacred role. It is not something that should be done lightly. You should really take some time to think about the values that you want to carry if you are looking to host events. And before you even go to an event, spend some time thinking about the event that you're going to and what you think the values for that specific environment look like and how you can cultivate your own version of those. Because without doing this work of identifying what those values might look like, you may just get caught up in a system where you are playing a part of someone else when you are in front of these other people or this new group, instead of actually being your most true and authentic self. So just think about who you are and how you want to show up, and it'll help you show up even more like yourself. All right, now let's get into the last and final chapter of this and every single episode in this podcast series around values is the birds that inspire me along the way. Now, I have quite a few that I want to talk about today, but one of them that is really near and dear to my heart, and we saw or heard a few of them throughout this podcast episode already, it is the common grackle. Now, if you don't know much about common grackles, one thing you need to know is that they live in really large communities, particularly here in Central Park throughout the spring and summer, but I digress on that. They are lots and lots and lots of them. So within these groups of common grackles, you can find males, you can find females. This time of year, which is the late spring, you're mostly going to find males because the females haven't arrived yet from the south. But when they do, you'll notice that they actually are foraging together. Even though they're foraging for the same food, they're looking for the same females, the males. They are foraging together. They're doing these like activities together. And even though it might conceivably, like we independent American society would tell you that, hey, it's best to do things alone. It's best to build alone. Don't build in a group because it could take away from your product or whatever it is that you're trying to sell or whatever it is you're trying to build. But that's actually not the case for the common grackles. Yes, there are times where they will get territorial and where they'll kick another bird out just for the fun of it. But it's also important to remind ourselves that it's okay to build in the presence of others, and it won't take anything away from your craft. In fact, it actually might enhance it. Being around other people allows you to see your values more clearly, and oftentimes they can, if they are healthy individuals, they can reflect those same values back to you in ways that you don't necessarily even realize that you could be seen in, which is crazy work. But it's really important work. So take on a little bit of the common grackle. They might teach you a thing or two about how community interworkings go. Up next is the blue jay. Now, blue jays are experts at this. One particular instance that I will call out is early in the mornings when blue jays, a bunch of them, let's say like a large group is foraging down on the ground, there will be an outlooker, a blue jay that is kind of at the height of the trees, and they're looking for a red-tailed hawk or a crow, something that could threaten the environment that they are foraging in or the foraging birds down below. If something does end up happening, or say a red-tailed hawk enters the area, then a blue jay will start screeching super loud, like, ah, and they do this specific aggression call, and it's a really cool call, but essentially what it is that they're doing is they are drawing attention and looking out for their community members. Even though it doesn't directly benefit them because they're not able to eat, they're the looking out. They're the one who's like keeping an eye out for the new opportunities, for the danger, for the whatever it might be. So there are going to be instances in community where you are assigned that role, where you're the looker outer, let's say, and the other folks are people who are more just foraging, and they're looking and doing what's best for them in that instance. And you enabled them to do that, because if a blue jay has to constantly be on guard looking for other birds that are going to swoop by, then their foraging ability significantly decreases. And they're going to probably spend more time foraging, which puts them more at danger, makes them more tired. So these community-based systems really help and build for the success of the whole entire community. And then they'll do turns. So another bird will go up, that bird will come down, and it'll start foraging. So be the blue jay. Be the blue jay that takes shifts, that offers to look out, and be the one that can support the rest of the community members and however it is that they need support. We have this concept that I love, but I want to alter it a little bit. It is see something, say something. And I see it all the time here in the New York City subway, but I want to adjust it. See something, do something. So do can mean a bunch of different things, but in the case of the blue jay, it's screeching. But if you see something, a solid question never hurts to ask. And so if you see something that's off, that's something you can do. Just ask a simple question. Especially in community spaces, sometimes all it takes is that one unlock to truly understand where someone is coming from. And it'll help you understand too, do you need to be the looker-outer? Do you need to be the forager? What do you need to be? What role can you play that best fits the community and the growth that it needs to have? Up next, we have the American oyster catcher. Now, something I personally love about American oyster catchers is you can see them with a bunch of different species when they're migrating. So you can see them with ruddy turnstones. You can see them with purple, I think it's called purple yellowlegs, or you can see them with sanderlings. There are so many other birds that you can see this one traveling with. So be the American oyster catcher. Be the bird that's accepting of things, people that look different from you. If you meet someone who has a completely different interest than you do, be accepting of that. Ask questions. Get excited about the way that they engage with their hobby or their interest and learn more about it through them. Maybe there's a new hobby that you yourself could cultivate. Curiosity and acceptance is never going to hurt your own position. It's only going to teach you about how you can improve your understanding of whatever it is that you're trying to learn from that individual. Because at the end of the day, life is a game. Gamify it. Make it more fun. Curiosity is how we make life fun. And so accessing that and allowing these differences to come into our life is going to help us get even closer to that. And lastly, the bird that I want to talk about is the European starling. Now, I've talked a bunch about birds that we consider invasive, but European starlings were also dropped off in Central Park in the 1800s by an ornithologist who was English and missed the birds back home. And so they've kind of taken root and really become successful in the park. But one thing about the way that European starlings fly that I've always found to be really interesting is that when they are flying, they actually don't have a choreography that they are following. A lot of people think and assume that they do. They don't. They are literally making it up on the fly. It is bird improv. And a lot of times life is like that. It's improv. And sometimes you have to think about life as improv in order to have fun with it and to just kind of let go of the experience. Because holding on too tightly is only going to hurt us even more than it probably already has. So European starlings do this beautiful dance. It's called a murmuration in the sky, and they rely on the 6 birds around them in order to do this beautiful dance. Now, the reason why I mention this is because sometimes in that case, or in those cases with those birds, relying on the 6 birds around them, some of them are taking a leader role, some of them are taking a follower role. It just really truly depends on that one instant. And being that dynamic and having that ability to kind of shapeshift as you are needed is a superpower. It is something, oh wow, there's a downy woodpecker somewhere here. Do you hear that rattling? It's a superpower, and it's something that you are allowed to flex into and should be flexing into. I encourage you to even more frequently. Make your own murmuration. Make your own dance in the sky. Have fun with it. All right, y'all, this has been another amazing episode of our value series. I will continue posting new episodes every single week, so catch the new one next week. I cannot wait to see you here for more of our series. I love you so much, and I will see you on the other side. Oh, one last thing. I dropped a pin for our That Quirky Bird Stirs, and if you want to get it, check out the link down below. It'll be pasted in the description. You can get your own high quality pin. This is the first flight edition, so I only have as many as I have, and I hope you can grab yours today. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.